listening to the Money Monopolizers Podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. It's about time that we invest more in our financial literacy and work towards building generational wealth. If you think you're ready to do the same, then you've come to the right place. Alex, Marlon, y'all ready? Let's get this bread.
What's good, everybody? It's Alex Comunio here, and we are back with episode 25 of the Money Monopolizers Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Marlon Walls. Marlon, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing fantastic, bro. And that's because I am finally done with this semester of classes. I took my last final earlier today. I'm just about to be chilling for the next month until my next classes start up, which will also be my last semester of school ever. So I can't express how excited I am. Then also for this episode, I know we have another late nighter coming up, but we just dedicated to pumping these episodes out for y'all. So I'm just excited to get started, bro. How about you?
I'm good, bro. Yeah, I know it's a good feeling to finish the finals.
For sure.
You walk out of there and you're like, yes, bro, I'm out of here, bro. So
I swear.
That's a good feeling. But yeah, other than that, as for me, you know, it's cold as hell over here. So I'm just trying to stay warm right now.
It's probably about 40, 50 degrees. Talking about it's cold.
Bro, it was like 35 degrees. And I was like, bro, this is unnecessarily cold, bro.
You haven't got below 20s yet like me?
Hey, bro, I don't need to feel that. I don't need to see none of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know those people that are listening in like New York and wherever, they like, man, what you talking about? 25 degrees, 30 degrees, bro. That ain't nothing. Yeah, but we got a good episode for y'all today, as we do every week. This week we are going to be talking about the difference between the poor / middle class and the wealthy, right? So, I know a lot of people, when they saw this, most people would think that we're going to be talking primarily about money. I mean, this being a podcast about money and us mentioning poor, middle class, and wealthy. But contrary to that, we are going to actually be talking more so. We're going to be talking about other things than just besides money, right? Because you can be poor and wealthy in, a multitude of ways, right? You can be poor in mindset. You can be poor in spirit. You can be poor in ambition. In the same way, you can be wealthy in mindset and wealthy in spirit and wealthy in ambition. And of course, poor and wealthy with money. So there's a bunch of, different ways to classify poor and wealthy. So we're not going to, give y'all a sermon or nothing. Well, maybe we will, but we'll see how that goes. But we're definitely going to try to touch on a few different components of what we believe is really the difference between the poor and the wealthy, combining, looking at it from all angles, right? We're going to look at it from the money angle. We're going to look at it from the mindset angle. We're going to look at it from, a couple other ways we'll introduce as we go through the episode, but we're going to kind of try to look at it from that perspective as opposed to just looking at it from money, right? Because money is, as we always say, just a part of the whole thing, right? There's a lot more to being wealthy than just having money. Or I guess I should say there's a lot more to becoming wealthy than just earning and gaining money and making money. It's about, a bunch of other things that we're going to touch on too. So one thing I will say though, preface to this episode, if your feelings are hurt easily, then listener discretion is advised. Even though that being said, those people that, feelings do get hurt easily, then those are probably the people that need to be listening the most, to be honest. But, I'm not saying we finna come at anybody's necks or nothing, but I'm just saying, like, this being the time of everybody, there's outrage about everything, little thing. So, if you feel some type of way about this episode, then, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not really sorry. But
it's gonna be spitting real this game, man. So if y'all are gonna be having y'all feelings and y'all gonna be butthurt about it, then I'm sorry to tell y'all that, but just better tune out now.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, that's kind of just a preface to it. But anyways, let's get it right into it though. So the first aspect that we want to look at, or the first component, if you will, is the mindset, right? So we talk a lot about money mindset and why that's so important whenever you are trying to build wealth. And in this case, we're going to just strictly look at mindsets of the have-nots versus the mindsets of the haves, if you will. I mean, if you want to classify it like that, however you want to classify that, or you could say unsuccessful versus successful, right? It's not necessarily, like I said, it's not all about the money. It's not poor, wealthy, but for the purposes of this, that's what we're going to call it. So we're going to look at the poor versus, wealthy. So for me, I think that when it comes to mindset, there are three common themes among wealthy people that, like, these are just like undeniable themes that you see across most wealthy people, right? The first thing, and I think one of the biggest things with all of this, is the fact that wealthy people dream big dreams. Nothing can defeat the passionate and committed mind. That is how wealthy people think, right? Dream big. I know Marlon that's something he's always big about. He's always, putting that on social media and stuff. So it's true. Like, dreaming big is the key to it, right? Because, you hear the cliche thing, the people that are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the people that end up changing it. And the beautiful thing about, this country and where we live is that America's a country that rewards big dreamers. As much as everyone loves to complain about capitalism and cry about capitalism, and, you get on social media and see everybody crying, oh, capitalism, blah, 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 blah. Bro, capitalism is not a dirty word. Capitalism it just means something is for sale, right? Because if you look at the Latin derivative of capitalism, right? So if you take the word CAPITALISM, I almost spelled it wrong. If you take that word and you break it up, the Latin derivative of that word, caput, is the word, right? That means head. What do you need? What is one thing you need to survive in a free world? It's that you need to be able to use your head. So that's how I look at capitalism, right? Because, like I said, this country rewards people that use their head. So it's just a matter of getting into that mindset, right? We live in a society that, it's not necessarily, yes, it's divided, but when it comes to, like, dreaming big and accomplishing goals, we don't live in a society that's divided by white and black or Democrat and Republican or, any other, thing you could think of. We live in a society that's divided between dreamers and non-dreamers. Because the fact of the matter, and this is where I say some people's feelings might get hurt, is that your circumstances aren't what is preventing you from being wealthy. I say it again. Your circumstances aren't what is preventing you from being wealthy. Your mindset is.
Preach that.
Your mindset is, right? Because, look, wealth is not a function of race, of gender, of your parents, or anything. It's matter of factly just a function of choice, discipline, decision, innovation, faith, and creativity. That's what wealth is, all about, right? And I'm not just saying this just to say it. There's literally examples in society that have shown this, right? There's a lot of millionaires that have literally took situations that y'all are in, situations just like you, if not worse, and won with it. Like, real talk. Like, if you look at Oprah, right? Oprah is worth $3 billion. But obviously she didn't just get there just because she's Oprah. She's a household name now, but she ain't just come up like that, right? If you look at Oprah's, if you look into her biography, you'll know that she was, number one, born to a single mother that was on welfare. She was physically and mentally and sexually abused during her childhood. She got pregnant at 14 years old, ran away from home, and then the baby died. She got her first job as a TV anchor and got kicked off or fired for being too, emotional with her stories. And she overcame all that to get to where she is today, right? So it's just a matter of people have to seriously decide, right? Are you going to accept the circumstances as they are, or are you going to take responsibility to change them? You have to say that you're going to make life choices before life makes those choices for you. That's just straight up, bro. Straight up. And the crazy thing about society is I'll get on Twitter and, like, I see the craziest stuff. Earlier this week, I saw this crazy tweet, bro. It was like for me, it was normal to see, but people were going in on this girl, and I'm gonna read it real quick. So they said this lady said, she tweeted, and it was going viral on Twitter earlier this week. She said, "I sacrificed my 20s to build the foundation of my long-term wealth. I worked 60 to 80 hours a week and saved and invested. Folks said I regret it. I'm 41 and I can buy almost anything I want. Still waiting for that regret to kick in." Bro, people were cooking this lady like she had just freaking committed some sort of, I don't know, some crazy sin, bro. Like if you went to the replies, like 99% of the people was like talking antagonistic towards her. And I'm like, dang, bro, this is the mindset society is in. Like they have literally gotten to the point where like people love self-victimization, bro. Like people love to literally say, I can't do that because of the situation I'm in. And obviously there's outlier situations that apply that are like, you know, obviously, yes, there's some things that are going to prevent you from doing things. But generally speaking, most people love to just say, I can't do this because this happened to me, or, you know, this, I'm being, you know, oppressed by this thing or whatever. And it's true. I'm not denying any of that stuff, but you can overcome those things, right? Too many people love to act like victims. And that's all I saw in the replies. People were saying, oh, wow, why would you sacrifice your whole youth to do that? That's crazy. I wouldn't want to sacrifice my entire youth to just for money. I mean, money isn't everything, whatever. I'm like, bro. And I figured out what it was, though. The reason people get mad at this kind of stuff is because it conflicts with their idea that people's lack of success must be due to the system. It must be due to racism. It must be due to absent fathers. It must be due to something. It must be due to the freaking boogeyman, bro. It's so many different things that they think is happening, right? So, you know, when they see something like this, what this lady did, that story is shattering their excuse and forces them to be accountable for where they are in life. So now they're mad, right? Change your mindset, bro. Successful people focus on going somewhere and growth and development, while unsuccessful people focus on I can't, or woe is me, or oh, this is happening. Whatever you think about, you're right.
I mean, people always are thinking that if whatever the situation is, that's really what dictates where their outcome is going to be. And that's like, I mean, that's really the foundation of where they ultimately end up at. And I want everybody to understand that getting out of your current situation pretty much starts with just having a goal in mind, having some type of vision for yourself, having some type of dream or aspiration. And it reminds me of when I listen to Steve Harvey. He talks always about a vision board. I think I mentioned this before, but a vision board is pretty much writing down, whether it's visually like a picture or writing it down on a piece of paper, what your goals and your visions are for your life. It could be a short-term goal. It can be mid-term, even long-term. It can be for future families, whatever it may be. But you need to have some goal in mind that you are able to see daily, because that's what ultimately what gets you on a track to like changing your mindset and saying, I'm trying to achieve something regardless of my current situation. And he always says that dreams are like a preview to life's coming attractions. So like, for instance, if you saw, I don't know how many people have saw the Amazon picture where Jeff Bezos was working like late at night one day, when all you saw was this big Amazon poster onto his right. That was him. Yeah, that's him dreaming. That's 20 years ago. He's dreaming back then like, hey, I have a vision that I want to achieve one day. Nobody else can see your dreams is the biggest thing. Nobody can see your dreams, but as long as you can see them, they're feasible, because you're going to be the one that ultimately makes them become a reality at some point. So start off by just writing your visions down on a piece of paper, or just like get a whole bunch of pictures that represent where you're trying to get to in life, and hang it over your bed, hang it on your wall, wherever it is, wherever you're going to see it every day. And that'll truly encourage you to like continue pressing forward toward those goals. And then also, just achieving your dreams start off with the belief that you can. So after you write them down, you have to believe that you can achieve those. So like my dad, for instance, he grew up in an adverse situation where he was in a single parent household. That in itself, he always tells me that I'm him without him. So meaning that if he was basically when he was younger, if he had a dad, I represent a lot of like what he would be like, what he would have been like if he had that male guidance figure in his life. And but he didn't let that stop him though. What his ultimate goal is to say, however my dad was, which was out of his life, like he's talking from his perspective. His dad wasn't in his life, so he's like, okay, I'm not going to be anything like how he was. I'm going to change my personal situation, make it better for myself and for my kids in the future. So what does he do as a result? He works every day saying, I'm about to go to work. I'm about to provide for my family. I'm going to take them out of the situation that I was in Detroit, Michigan. I'm going to move them down to a more suburban area where they can grow up, not have to worry about the things that I was worried about, such as coming home, the lights not being on, coming home, all my clothes are out in the street, coming home, my locks are off the door, stuff like that. He didn't want us to worry about anything of that sort, and that's what kept him moving forward every day. Like it's all he thought about. So that is something that will allow you to get out of your current situation. It starts with changing your mindset. And I also just want to put out a plug to a book called The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, because this book is one of the best books about like just changing your mindset to dreaming and thinking bigger. That's really where Dream Big came from, is from that book. It's because every time you think, like he has a lot of analogies in there. So instead of thinking Chevy Chevette, think Chevy Corvette. It's just like little things like that. It's just training your mindset to stop thinking so small and dream bigger, because when you dream bigger, you have something to work towards, and that ultimately gets you to that point at some point.
Facts, definitely. Second theme that is common among wealthy people or successful people, or the haves, if you will, is the fact like they are inner directed rather than outer directed, right? So what does that mean? Inner directed meaning I am the controller of my life. I take full responsibility for my life, right? Versus outer directed meaning I let other people's opinions and things and other situations and circumstances take control of my life, right? These people that become successful and wealthy, they don't listen to the naysayers. You don't listen to naysayers. You direct your own life. You cannot be concerned with what other people think, say, or do. You ain't got time for that, because that's putting energy towards negative things that aren't helping you grow, when you could be putting that energy towards growing and developing yourself. That's what broke people do. That's what poor people do. They put energy towards gossiping and all these other things that ain't got nothing to do with them. That's not helping them advance at all, right? And it's a matter of just being a leader of your own life. And it's real, but the price of leadership is always loneliness too. Be aware of that, because when you're in charge of your life, you are a leader, and that's going to make you somewhat lonely. People are going to fall off when you start taking full responsibility of your life. There's a quote that I heard in a speech I was listening to earlier this week. The guy said, the worst mistake you can make is thinking someone else signed your paycheck. The worst mistake you can make is thinking someone else signed your paycheck, meaning you put yourself in a position to receive that paycheck, right? You essentially are the signer. You are the final person that is co-signing you receiving that paycheck, not the person that signed it. You signed that paycheck yourself. So that's just something to be aware of. And just going back to what, we were talking about earlier a little bit, because this kind of ties into it too. People are going to blame their situation on everything but themselves. People love to do that. Self-victimization is crazy. Mm-hmm. It's so easy to blame your parents or the government or society or the school system or whatever, right? But you got to understand that there is fault and responsibility for everything. What do I mean by that? Let's say, for example, that, I take out the trash and for the trash truck to come pick it up, and the wind blows it over and knocks down the trash, right? And the trash goes all over the yard. Well, I'm going to have to pick it up, right? I mean, what else am I going to do? I'm not going to blame the wind, am I? So the wind, it might be, you can assign the fault to the wind. Yes, obviously the wind is at fault, but the responsibility is yours to pick it up. Mm-hmm. And that's how life works, right? Because look, y'all got to understand the times that we live in too, like, and we're going to touch on this a little later, but it applies here too. In this era that we're in, you can literally grow up poor, on welfare, on WIC, And you can go get a job at Walmart. You can read about, stocks or real estate or business and investing. You can literally change your life. And I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's that easy. Huh? And look, I mean, I'm not gonna get into that because I feel like that's self victimization again. And I just talked about that. But blaming external factors doesn't improve your internal reality. If you're looking for an excuse, you're gonna find one. If you're looking for a solution, you're gonna find one too. So.
And for those that's looking for a solution, I want to just like reference a tweet that actually is an Instagram post I saw Adrian Peterson put. He mentioned, as you rise, many people will disapprove. Just rise anyway. And that just goes to show that so self-victimization falls in like another category, which is people feel it's like misery loves company, sort of. So if you are like victimizing yourself, it's probably a product of you seeing other people around you doing the same thing, whether it be your parents, whether it be I don't know, peers especially. Like if you see everybody else that's just settling for mediocrity, you feel more inclined to do the same thing. So now we see somebody else that's like trying to get out of that situation. You almost want to play the villain on them. Like they're the ones that's doing the abnormal thing, like your tweet you mentioned earlier. They're going outside the norm. And that's when you start getting all this disapproval. And if you so like say for instance, if she had been in that adverse situation, like growing up and all her peers were in the same situation, I'm sure this actually happened to her. So she starts trying to get out of her situation. Her friends are probably going to be the first ones to be like, hey, bro, you tripping now, you acting different or something. And like basically you're trying to outgrow your situation, but they trying to hold you back and be like, oh, now you think you're too good for us or something, huh? And it's like, but it's really a feeling of inferiority at that point. Like they feel like you're outgrowing them. Yeah. And instead of you trying to leave the situation, you might be trying to bring them along, but they're like, nah, I'm comfortable where I am currently. I'm cool. You need to stay down here with us. Nah, bro, I'm trying to accelerate. I'm trying to advance myself. I'm trying to be the best I can be. And that's that's all about mindset, like we're talking about. And so if these are people that you're surrounding yourself with, that's what you really need to evaluate is your inner circle. Because I had a coach back in undergrad. I love this quote that he used to say. He used to always say, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And if that's the case, who you need to really look at who you're surrounding yourself with, because those are the people who are influencing you as far as your mindset, the decisions you make, the way that you act, just your whole, mannerisms, it goes on and on. But and especially if you're the smartest person within those 5 people, it's time to find a new group, man, because they're doing nothing but holding you back from your potential that you have for yourself.
Yeah, it's real. It's real. You gotta stop. You gotta take responsibility for your own life, because at the end of the day, those people are gonna still be there, and it's up to you if you're gonna be there with them. So, anyways, that's the second theme. The last one before we move to the next component is not being afraid to fail. So, this is kind of a trivial thing when you just listen to it, but more so what it means is, another cliche thing you hear, that life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react to it. It's cliche, but it's real. It's cliche, but it's real, for real, because typically, this just goes back to what we're talking about. It's not about the situation. It's about what you do to get yourself out of the situation, or how you respond to it, right? So if that means you have to fail at something, then you have to be able to get into that mindset of being okay with failure, because poor people have a negative relationship with failure. Seriously, poor people have a negative relationship with failure. I personally, I don't love failure, but I'm okay with failure, right? Because I know for me that failure is where growth occurs. I know that if I want to grow, I need to seek failure, literally. It's like if you go to the gym, right? If I go to the gym, what am I doing? I'm seeking failure. It's controlled failure. Like if you practice or you're in the gym, I'm literally pushing my muscles to the point of failure, because I know once they get into that point of failure, they're going to experience hypertrophy, or however you say that stuff. It's muscle growth, right? So I need to get to that point. I need to push my muscles to that point. So that's successful people fail more than they succeed, seriously, because they extract those lessons from failures and apply them to the next phase of success. I had heard something a while back too that said the average person gets 4 ideas a year any one of which could make them financially independent if they had the courage to act on it. Seriously.
So
if you just literally act on it, if you literally act on that idea, you can literally become financially independent. But people have literally convinced themselves that they're going to fail at it, which you probably will. But you have to get into that mindset that you have to be okay with it, because you're going to take lessons out of those failures and apply them, and you're going to come back better. And so now you're going to go, apply that to your next idea and your next idea and your next idea. One of them's going to work, bro. One of them's going to work. I'm comfortable with failing. I mean, I can't. I don't even want to get into how we failed this year. That's an episode for itself. So let's not. Don't even answer that question. We'll talk about that later.
No, I'm laughing one at what you just said, but you said the average person gets 4 ideas a year. Man, I think so. Alex is not average. He gets about 10 ideas per year, and he wants to act on all of them as soon as he gets them. So this podcast is one of his ideas. So look at us today, episode 25. But no, seriously though, it's always good to have to act on the ideas that you have though, especially, and not being afraid to fail. I think the problem with failure is that school is like the root problem of what teaches you failure is bad. Because if you ever think about taking a test or passing a class, if you fail the test or fail the class, you feel like you have failed life almost. Yeah. Like you feel like you are just a reject in your classroom, or you just are a complete waste of space at this point. And it reminded me, I was having a conversation with one of my friends earlier about this exact thing. She said she had feel like she flunked the test, feel like she should have dropped the class. She was really getting down on herself, and she was talking about how this class had really taught her a lot. And I wanted to highlight that point instead of highlighting how she had failed, because what failures do is that they don't say that you are a failure. Like, a failure doesn't mean you are a failure. A failure actually teaches you a lesson along with it. And I wanted her to take away that important point. It's because when she was taking this class, it wasn't catering to how she learned. So she learns through interaction, like speaking what new terminology is, like conversing with whether it be a peer or the professor. And she learned that about herself this semester. She might not have done well in the class as a result at the end of the semester, but she learned for next time and for a lifetime how she learns best. Like a failure is temporary, but the lesson will last forever. So just embrace the failure, because you know that you have learned a lot more than what you would have from a success. You learn nothing from a success besides the fact that you might have done something either correctly or got lucky.
Big facts. I need to start dropping what's it called? A gem sound effect in the podcast. Whenever we start dropping gems, just put that sound effect. I might put one in here right there. Let's get into this next component. The second component of wealthy versus poor, middle class, have-nots, unsuccessful, successful, right? So now, I mean, the money, that's one of the biggest things. We're not going to touch too much on it, but we did want to touch on how money differs, right? Or essentially how cash flows, I guess you could say, how money is spent differently. And we, like I said, we talk about this all the time. This is probably literally every other episode we talk about this. So we're not going to talk too much on it here, but pretty much, I mean, the way money flows for a poor / middle class person is they'll have a job, right? This job will provide them income in the form of a salary. And they'll take this salary, go purchase liabilities. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Use these these liabilities will generate them expenses in the form of taxes, mortgage payments, car payments, credit card payments, right? Because the liabilities they bought a house, they bought a car, they got credit card debt, and the money will leave and it'll never come back, right? So that's how money flows, and they essentially get into that cycle because now they keep buying more liabilities, they need more money, so they continue working and they get into what's called the rat race. So that's how that flows, right? So how about for wealthy people? Well, wealthy people differ in the way that some wealthy people have jobs, not all of them, but let's say that for this purpose of this conversation, let's say wealthy people have jobs also, right? Because that's one of their multiple streams. Well, wealthy people have like 7 different types of incomes, and earned income is one of them. So let's say they have a job, they take that money from their job, And instead of buying liabilities, they purchase assets. And that's literally like the key difference in all of this. Wealthy people spend their life purchasing assets while poor and middle class people buy liabilities. What are assets? Assets are anything that puts money in your pocket. Real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, intellectual property. All those are assets. These assets generate them income. Income in the form of rental income, dividends, interest, royalties. All that is passive income. And it's not to say they don't have any liabilities, right? But the difference is they use the income that's generated from these from these assets to purchase their liabilities, such as their cars and their mortgages and their houses and their mortgages and their cars and, you know, any other type of liabilities, things that take money out of their pocket. They're using income generating assets to purchase these, and they can also use this money to pay for the expenses that come from these assets, right? So what does that mean? They get to a point eventually where they can, I said they have a job earlier, right? Well, they don't need that job anymore because now they got assets to pay for their liabilities. They don't need to go trade their time in for it. And that's literally, look, bro, I always say this all the time. I feel like I'm a broken record saying this. You don't get anything from anything we ever say. Literally just get that one thing. Go back for the past 2 minutes. You can listen to that and never listen to us again. And that's literally all you need to know to become wealthy. I promise, bro. For real.
At some point, somebody gonna listen. That's all I gotta say. But that's a classic rich dad poor dad lesson. But what it's really highlighting is people's inability to delay their own personal gratification, because if you think about it, it's the poor / middle class that are taking their money and putting them straight to what they want, which are expenses, versus the wealthy who are putting it toward assets, which is like investing, that's going to ultimately gain them a return and provide for them in the future. It's just about trying to have, like I said, instant gratification. I know I sound like a broken record saying that because I say it all the time, but it reminds me of the marshmallow test. So this was a test that was done on kids, because what they were trying to highlight is that delayed gratification starts from a very young age, and they were actually able to show this as successful. In 1972, at Stanford University, they had 4-year-olds put into a room, each in their own separate room, and they will offer them a marshmallow. And they said, either you can take this marshmallow now and have it, and have nothing later, or I'm gonna leave this marshmallow here. If you don't touch it, and I'll come back in 10 minutes, I will give you another one. And the people, so there was some kids, of course, that said as soon as that person walked out the room, they attacked the marshmallow and ate it as soon as they left. Some of them waited for like 5 minutes and then just couldn't resist anymore and just had to eat it. And then some waited that full 10 minutes and got another one at the end. And what they did was that they tracked all of these kids, like as they grew up and as they started like going through different milestones, such as graduation, such as getting a job, such as like physique, and once they got older, and they saw like trends for the people who were able to delay gratification. They saw higher SAT scores. They saw they pursue higher education. They even had like better body mass index, BMI. Like they had all these different things that showed that they were able to delay personal gratification in order to achieve something better as an end result. And that just goes back to showing your cash flow example that the wealthy people are not like wealthy people are examples of these ones who were able to delay their personal gratification. So that's why you don't see them spending their money on like liabilities, or especially not depreciating ones like brand new cars, and they don't have any assets to pay for them. They may buy that type of stuff, but after they have assets to pay for them. The wealthy people, they buy assets first, while poor middle class are buying memories.
Let me drop a gem right there.
Oh boy, it's gonna be about 15 gems in here, I guess.
Whoa. And you know what's crazy? When you were saying that, I was like, dang, bro, that's real. Because, you know, I'm trying to put it in perspective for however, you know, the common person thinks, right? So the common person, for them, instant gratification might be, hey, I want to go party in Vegas or Miami or something, right? Why not delay gratification? Spend that money instead, invest in assets, so that you can, instead of partying in Vegas, you could party in Amalfi Coast, or you can party in Chili's. You could party somewhere, you know, that's what I'm trying to party, bro. I'm
That's
trying to be on
dreaming
a yacht.
big right there. That's dreaming big. That's all. That's a result of is dreaming bigger.
That's all it is, bro. So that's the second component. Let's get into the third component. The third component of how wealthy people differ from poor is through education, or their desire, commitment to education, if you will. Wealthy people are committed to lifelong education. Education does not stop, no matter how much money you have, no matter how successful you become. Once you stop educating yourself is when you stop growing and when you stop gaining more success, right? So you have to get into that mindset of continued lifelong education. Even if you stop educating yourself once you graduate school, you might as well go ahead and get ready on your wheel. You're going to be on there for a minute. Go ahead and get on that wheel, bro. You're going to be running that race for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Real talk. Because seriously, if you don't read, if you don't study, if you don't learn, if you don't go to seminars, I can guarantee you someone else will. And when you meet them, you lost. Because I know I am. Shoot. So if you meet me, hey, bro, you lost. That's all. That's just the real. I'm just being real. So you have to commit yourself to educating and continuing to grow and developing in all aspects, right? The more you learn, the more you earn. This is, bro, like I said earlier, the beautiful thing about our society is that it is a, I don't want to say capitalistic, because I know some people are going to feel some type of way, but it is a democracy that rewards capitalism. So one of the, foundations of that whole thing is the fact that if you learn more than other people, you will literally earn more than them. Because of the way society is set up and how this country is set up, you can literally make more money the more you know, just because there's that much free reign, right? There's something, a speaker that I was listening to earlier this week. His name is Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. He did studies on multiple black millionaires, he interviewed thousands of black millionaires, I think. Or I think he said 150. I'm capping, but I think he said 150. But one thing that he found out, or one thing he talked about in his speech, I guess, is something called the E to E ratio. So the E to E ratio is education to entertainment, right? And by entertainment, I'm pretty much saying any activity where you can pretty much turn off your brain and essentially you just, can stunt your mental growth or personal growth in that way. For the average American, the E to E ratio is 50-1. What does that mean? That means for every 1 minute they're spending on education, they are spending 50 minutes for entertainment. 50-1. In the black community, it's 200-1. 200-1, bro. For every 1 minute they spend on education, they're spending 200 minutes on entertainment. And I'm not sitting here trying to say, bro, you don't need any entertainment, whatever. It's hustle. No. I'm not finna. Obviously, that's not realistic, right? You have to relax and turn your brain off sometimes. But I'm trying to say that the goal should be to identify activities that don't add value into your life and minimize those, right? So how do you define value? What adds value, right? Well, if you think back a year and just think about, what's happened, let's say this year, and the best experiences you've had this year, you're not going to be thinking about the time you watched Netflix or you was browsing Twitter, right? I would hope that wasn't your best experience this year. If it was, damn, bro. I mean, let me take you on vacation with us. If that was your experience. But that's that's what I mean by value. Those things don't add value to you. It's better. Your entertainment should be things that are adding value to you. And I'm not saying eliminate it, but I'm just saying minimize it. There was actually a study from the Pew Research Center in 2018 where they pretty much looked at how many Americans are actually reading. And they found that 27% of U.S. adults didn't read one book in 2018. That's actually, I wasn't Actually, I was surprised that the number was that low, to be honest. I would I guess I didn't give people enough credit, but I thought it would be like closer to 40%. But that's just anyways. And they also found that adults with annual household incomes of less than 30,000 are more than twice as likely to be non-book readers as those making 75,000. And obviously 75,000 isn't wealthy, but you can extrapolate 75,000 to 750,000 or 750 million. And obviously the number of books will probably increase, or the percentage that they are a book reader will increase, right? So, bro, these are just the facts. I'm just giving you the facts. Like, it's a correlation between reading and wealth. It's seriously there. Yes, of course, other factors are going to come into play. But like I said earlier, circumstances aren't what is preventing you from being wealthy. It is your mindset. It's a choice. The average millionaire reads 5 books a month. 5 books a month. That's 60 books a year. God. Right? In that same presentation that I listened to from Dr. Dennis Kembro, he said, and I quote, the bigger the house, the more books in their personal library. The smaller the house, the bigger the flat screen TV.
Man, if whoever's listening to this for the past 2 to 3 minutes, y'all need to be just understand that was just the whole educational roadmap to success Alex just laid out for y'all. I don't even have anything to add besides my personal take on it is that the average millionaire reads 5 books a month. I'm trying to get there myself. I know last year, especially before I got back into school, I was right around there, maybe about 2 to 3. I'm trying to get up to that level because if y'all, like I mentioned before, if y'all knew 8th grade me all the way up to college me, that dude ain't read 1 book ever in his life. So I was in that $30,000 household back then. I'm moving my way on up now, but you can see like the growth though. Like you see that our knowledge is just like expounding on itself. It's like exponential gain because there's so much knowledge in books. I mean, just all educational systems, like he said, you should not stop learning once you leave school. That is like that's the saddest thing that you could do is like to stagnate yourself completely from age 21 to 70 or whenever, like death. Come on, bro. Like you haven't learned a thing since 21 and you 65, bro. Come on now. That sounds ridiculous. But like I said, this dude gave you the whole roadmap for success. Now, what's stopping you? This is what the wealthy are doing. This is how they are getting to where they are. It starts with mindset, and it comes from reading these books and educating yourself. And for people, I mean, I don't even know. If you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So we giving y'all all the gems. It's like free game right here, man. Like, come on, bro.
And look, it's not. I'm not a monolith. There's different ways to consume knowledge, right? That's the beautiful thing about the times we are in. So you have to ask yourself, what are you consuming daily, right? Are you consuming music or podcasts? Are you watching pointless stuff on Netflix, or are you in online courses or online webinars or YouTube courses or whatever, right? And another big thing, probably the biggest, is who do you follow on social media? Who do you follow on social media? Because, that is a big part of what you are consuming daily, right? Because, it's crazy when you think about, how we got to where we are with phones and stuff too. Because seriously, these phones, that's literally, bro, you have so much power with this thing, this iPhone, bro. If you got a cheese Android too, you got so much power with these things too, bro. Because it's crazy when you think about it, because they weren't even designed to, or they weren't intended to be used the way they are today. Why do I say that, or how do I know that? You can go listen to Steve Jobs in the 2007 iPhone keynote address when he introduced the first ever iPhone, and that fat iPhone in 2007. Whenever he introduced that thing, the first thing that he said was, "We have made the best iPod ever." It was never intended to be what it is today. It was literally intended to be a device that combined your phone, meaning your calling and texting abilities, with your music player. That's where the name iPhone comes from, right? It was never intended to be what it is today. And also, they didn't even start talking about the internet capabilities until 30 minutes into that presentation. And Apple, if it's something big, bro, that's gonna be the first thing in the presentation, right? So that tells you that it wasn't intended to be what it is, but it has grown to that. And another thing too, I mean, if you they had actually talked about there was a book I read by Cal Newport this year. It was called Digital Minimalism, and he interviewed one of the Apple engineers at the time that helped develop the iPhone, and he said that Steve Jobs intentionally did not put an app store on the phone because he didn't think that third-party app developers could put a product out that would look as aesthetically pleasing and functional as a Apple programmer could. So that literally tells you, bro, these things weren't intended to have apps and all these things that they are now, but obviously capitalism and all that has gotten to it where it is today. And so that being said, I say all that to say, I'm not just saying it, I say all that to say that it's gotten to where it is today, and it's literally given you the ability to have social media as a modern education tool. It is a modern education tool today, right? Because you're on there every day, so you might as well learn something. And so that's why I asked earlier, who do you follow? Because for me, this year alone, just based off of who I have followed this year, I got 3 business ideas for 2020 just from Instagram, and I could tell you I'm already putting them in place. So I know 2020, I'm coming right out the gate. But that's all from, I get this stuff straight from IG because I follow the right people. Don't go look at my personal account. I'm talking about the Money Monopolizers account if you're going to look at who I'm following. But I'm being real. That's like, bro, I get so much free game off of IG. I'm like, golly, it's crazy, bro. So that's the third component. The fourth component is how time is spent. You can look at anyone and tell what they value based on what they spend their money and time on, right? Because your money and your time are, for most people, the most valuable things they have. So what they're spending what they are expending that towards will tell them what they value, right? If you look at my bank statements, you are going to see that I very much value my freedom. I very much value my freedom because I am investing heavily into assets that will give me freedom very soon. So that's just kind of one thing you'll be able to tell about me. If you look at how I spend my time, you'll see I value freedom again because I'm spending a lot of my time trying to do things that are going to help me become free. So that's just, I mean, you can... your money is like a mirror for most people. You look at your money and you see exactly how you spend it, and you're going to be looking right back at yourself. You're going to be looking right back at how you value it. So, and one thing to mention too with that is how are you using the internet? That's one big aspect of how you're spending your time. Because like I said earlier, a lot of people are on social media and, just wasting time. But you got to understand that the times that we are living in right now are unprecedented. Seriously, unprecedented in the future, in the past, and looking forward to the future. I guess if you look in the future, I don't see times being ever, how they are right now for too much longer, right? Because literally all you need right now to become wealthy is Wi-Fi and one of these phones, bro. That's literally all you need, or a computer. That's literally all you need, bro. Seriously, like. I know a lot of people are thinking, no, I need all this other, bro. There's so much knowledge on these things, bro. Oh my God. I can't even tell y'all, bro. Like Instagram, YouTube, podcasts, online stores, all of these things are going to give you the ability to make money. And it's just a matter of how you're utilizing it, right? And even to a lesser extent, what are you like using them for? Are you using them to gain more knowledge, like we talked about in education, or are you using it to waste time? Bro, it's not gonna always be like this. Me and Marlon was just talking about this the other day, bro. It's not gonna always be this easy to get bread, bro. It's not gonna be this easy to get to a bag, because literally the internet is so unregulated right now, bro. I know y'all remember a couple of years ago the whole net neutrality thing, bro. That's gonna come at some point in time, something like that, bro. Like, it's so easy to make money now, bro. People make it seem to be something difficult because that's how society has trained people to believe that you can only make money from working a job. and you can only trade your time in. But you switch your mindset, bro, because society. I had tweeted this earlier this week, I guess it was yesterday, talking about how society teaches us to look at money as $30 times 40 hours equals $1,200, right? That limits what you can earn, as opposed to looking at it as $30 times 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 sales, because then you have an unlimited earning potential. That's why businesses operate the way they do, because they are literally expected to increase their earnings every year. You have to treat your income like that, and that's what the internet gives you the ability to do. It's not gonna always be like this, bro. Y'all better take advantage, bro. It's crazy, because I know there's so many people that like want to quit their jobs and do all this other stuff, and they want to be an entrepreneur, but you look at how they're spending their time, and it don't reflect that. You could think about just last Sunday, right? How many people was laying in bed at 11 p.m. or 10 p.m. or whatever they went to sleep and just dreading going to work the next day? But a lot of people were. But I bet if you look at what most of them did on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, what were they doing? They was partying. They was watching useless stuff on Netflix, watching football, and they was sleeping because they need their lazy Sundays. They was doing everything but trying to make a move to replace their job. And then Friday comes around, and what happens? They just repeat that cycle. So you got to be able to be aware of that, number one, because it's so easy. It happens to people, and you got to avoid that. So I'm not going to say too much more on that, but yeah.
Man, this keeps on reminding me of mindset, bro, because like you said, with these phones, bro, it's crazy how much potential you have to be successful. Everything that you want to know or do in life can be found on this phone, bro. Like, you can search anything. Google and YouTube need to be utilized to its fullest potential before they become more systemized and regulated, because you can already see, like, if you search certain things on Google, it'll pop up at the very bottom, like, okay, some of these links have been removed due to copyright reasons. That's going to happen more and more as time goes on. You like, maybe like 2-3 years ago, you wouldn't see any of that. You could stream movies illegally. I mean, you could do so many different things that's being regulated now. YouTube is removing things from their channel, like from the channels that are deemed inappropriate, and it's happening all over the place. Instagram, even you see a lot of stuff getting removed on there. I mean, understand that it's gonna be more and more censored, more and more regulated as time goes on. Capitalize on it right now. But your last point, especially with like lazy Sunday and stuff, made me want to add a fifth component to this, and that's getting uncomfortable. Because middle class people, like the biggest difference between middle class, poor, and the wealthy is their feeling of comfortability and their unwillingness to get outside of their comfort zone to do something to change their current situation. And the problem is that middle class people associate their comfort with a happiness, and so it's almost like misassociated. It's not associated correctly, because they think, okay, I'm comfortable. This is where I'm like, now I feel safe. I feel secure. I'm happy now. So that's why on their lazy Sunday, they watching football. They just sleeping. They trying to catch up from the rest of the week, and they're trying to and to get their life together for that dreaded Monday that's coming up the next day. And like everything that you describe is describing their comfort, like them feeling comfortable. It's like a safe job, working for somebody else, not taking on new challenges, the Netflix after work, and even especially like when you get in there on Monday and be like, oh man, can't wait till Friday. I'm ready to be out of here again. And Friday hits, you start the whole cycle over again. The problem is that if you feel that strongly about Monday, why aren't you trying to change your situation up? Like, if you really if you like, this for people who really don't like their job, if you really don't like it, are you going to do something to change it, or are you going to just keep complaining about it? Because there's many people who are in worse situations than you that's probably making less than minimum wage. So many rags to riches stories that are inspired by getting out of their current situation. So basically, they will start from at a certain level. Like, I'm talking about Steve Harvey way too much, but him, for example, he was tired of his current situation of where he was working at. So he chose to follow his dream instead and say, I'm sick and tired of doing what I'm currently doing. I want to do something different. And he like I mentioned before, he did the comedy night, made $50 one day, and told his boss the next day, I'm quitting. I want to be on TV. I want to be a comedian. This is where I'm trying. This is where I'm about to follow. I'm about to follow my goals. Understand, every risk is not always the smartest. So you should probably take calculated risk, because he was homeless for 3 years after. But at the same time, he was following his dream, and that's ultimately what landed him in success, because he embraced the risk and the challenges that were going to come with being uncomfortable. And what wealthy people do is that they get comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's when you really start propelling forward. Because once you're like comfortable being in this situation, no matter what life throws your way, you're ready to fight through it and overcome that obstacle too. And it leads to like different it's the same thing when you get into investing. Like for us, I think Alex mentions this sometimes to me. Like there's a comfortability versus a profitability. So for me and him, house hacking, that's something that takes you getting out of your comfort zone and sacrificing your comfort for the sake of profit. Yeah, so instead of you living by yourself in this luxurious 1-bedroom apartment paying $1,500 a month in rent, instead you sacrifice where you're currently living at and rent out to somebody else. And what does that do for you? It makes you gives you more profit as a result. And basically that's delaying that gratification that I talked about earlier in order for a bit higher gain later on.
It's really just a matter of deciding. I think that's the best thing I could say really to wrap all this up. It's just deciding that you are going to do this, that you are going to become wealthy, or that you are going to become successful, or that you are going to become a have and not a have not, right? It's just getting to that mindset and doing what it takes. If you have to sacrifice comfort, then that's fine. It's not forever. Mm-hmm. I'm living in a freaking garage, bro. I'm living in a freaking garage because I can live here and make money living here. And what has that done? That's going to set me up for some good stuff in 2020, right?
Check this dude out in about 5 to 10 years and then ask he's still living in that garage or not.
Shoot, bro.
This is prepping him up for that position that he's going to ultimately get to.
Hey, bro, we just getting started, bro. And it's just a matter of making that choice that you're going to live this certain type of life. And that's really all it is at the end of the day. So, anyway, any closing thoughts?
Man, I think this is a really good episode. Probably went longer than what we wanted to, but I think we spent so many gems that it makes up for it. So I hope somebody learns something of value today. We're going to just keep saying it because eventually it's going to stick.
That's it for this episode of the Money Monopolizers Podcast. New episodes will be released every Thursday and will be available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Search Money Monopolizers wherever you listen to podcasts. We hope you learned something of value today. If you did, we'd appreciate it if you rated us 5 stars, left us a review on Apple Podcasts. And you can also find out more info about us on Twitter at The Monopolizers or on IG at Money Monopolizers. We post informative content on there that'll keep you engaged. So check that out and share those posts. But until then, we out of here.
You've been listening to the Money Monopolizers Podcast, helping you take control of your financial destiny. To learn more about how you can be in control of your money, visit moneymonopolizers.com. We'll catch you next time when Alex and Marlon share more personal finance and wealth creation tips with you. Now it's time to take